What changes to the roster would you like to see?
None. First year together, you can't even say we want to change our roster. We like what we got. We've been saying it all year. It's just chemistry, being together. The more we can be together, the better we will be. It's year one. We got a lot to reflect on, a lot to look at going forward, and to get better with. We get the same looks. We've been getting the same shots that we've been getting in the first halves of all those games. We just, as a squad, just went cold. 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 As a squad, just went cold.
Step back, 21-footer, Murray, no. Plumlee fighting for it, George claims it. Paul George ahead, Harrell is there, nice deflection, terrific defensive play by Murray.
I know, yet another Paul George video, but I didn't mean to make another Paul George video. You have to understand, when I made that video saying it's time to move on from Paul George, I literally meant it. I meant that this channel is going to move on from Paul George, but Paul George keeps on coming back and giving me more and more stuff to discuss, and I don't want to discuss it. You know, I'm not like some sort of bitter ex-girlfriend that wants to keep discussing the ex. You know, new week, time to move on. But unfortunately for us, Paul George has given us something to discuss. And, well, it's my duty as a NBA analyst / commentator to, give you each and every bit of information that I come across that I believe is worth talking about. So, before we get to the content, guys, make sure you smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. You guys have been doing a fantastic job of that. As a result, this past week has been the greatest week of my entire YouTube career. So, thank you guys so much for that. And I think I've proven to you guys that whenever success comes my way, I will immediately give back. So that's why I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 on my Twitter account. A link to that's in the description down below. I'm going to announce the winners of that in the beginning of October because I want to give some time for everybody to potentially get a PS5 if they don't have one, and then hopefully give a PS5 to someone that couldn't get their hands on one. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, it has not been a good playoffs for Paul George. We all know that. In a series where the Clippers came up short against the Denver Nuggets, and which resulted in a fairly one-sided Western Conference Finals, I think we all sort of resent the Clippers for not advancing to the Western Conference Finals. Even I do, and I'm a Laker fan. I wanted to see the Lakers versus the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. I often thought that the Western Conference Finals were going to be the real NBA Finals as opposed to the NBA Finals, which, with all due respect, if the Lakers make it through, I also expect it to be fairly one-sided. Resentment of the Los Angeles Clippers aside, there is some news that I need to break to you guys and give you guys some info about. So, for those of you guys that aren't aware, Paul George is considered to be one of the leaders of the Los Angeles Clippers, and that's kind of backwards, and it's very tough when one of the leaders of your team doesn't step up in a key situation. Just last night, we saw Anthony Davis make a clutch shot for the Los Angeles Lakers right when it counted the most. And don't get it twisted, Anthony Davis has had his disappearing acts in the NBA playoffs as well. But at least he could say that when time came for him to make a play, he was able to make that three-point jumper in front of Nikola Jokic's face. Not, hitting a three-point jumper off of the backboard and completely missing a corner three. Now, jokes aside, I'm not going to get on Paul George's case because I've said this over and over and over again. Lord knows what the man is going through. but I encountered a piece of information that might be the theme for the Los Angeles Clippers offseason, because it was the theme for the Los Angeles Clippers regular season. So for those of you guys that don't know, I've said this multiple times throughout the regular season, the Los Angeles Clippers' number one issue is team chemistry and continuity. Lou Williams said it, Kawhi Leonard said it, hell, even Paul George said it, but he said it in a way that kind of annoyed me. He said it's our first year together, but honestly, it's not necessarily the Clippers' first year together. It's just Paul George and Kawhi Leonard's first year with the Clippers. For the most part, that team remained relatively more or less the same. Only you swap out Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari for two-way superstars in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. But what was really embarrassing, and if you ask me, just completely lacked self-awareness, was the way Paul George handled his team's exit on Tuesday night. So I got this report today. I know I should have made it like way sooner, but here's the incident that occurred at the end of the game. Now, we know that Montrezl Harrell and Paul George got into it in game 2, but on Tuesday night, Paul George was giving a speech to his teammates to remain committed, for all players to return to the team this offseason and stay ready to make another run. And this is according to Shams Charania of The Athletic, and this was met by some eye rolls and some bewilderment. Sources said because Paul George did not back up his words with action in the series, and the team has multiple free agents with decisions to make, a la Montrezl Harrell, which, by the way, Montrezl Harrell isn't really the biggest Paul George fan after this whole experience. I can imagine after getting into it with each other in game 2, it appears as though Montrezl Harrell may be even slightly alienated, and I don't even think the Clippers could afford to bring him back. You see, Montrezl Harrell is a 26-year-old sixth-man player of the year. He won the award this year, and he's entering unrestricted free agency at quite possibly the greatest time. Because free agency this year absolutely sucks. There's not a single player that you just look at in the free agent pool that makes your mouth drool or make you wish that you had such player. Like, take a look at this free agency class. There's DeMar DeRozan, Andre Drummond, Gordon Hayward, Danilo Gallinari, Michael Conley if he exercises his early termination option, which he might or he might not, because I don't think any other team is going to sign him for the amount that he has on the books currently. And then you have Fred VanVleet and Montrezl Harrell. And those are the main stars, because after that, you have players like Davis Bertans, Christian Wood, and Malik Beasley, who's restricted. But Montrezl Harrell is unrestricted, and he has experience on a top power on the Western Conference and was able to win Sixth Man Player of the Year while playing for one of the top teams in the Western Conference. That says something. So there's a good chance that he's going to leave. He's already been linked to the Toronto Raptors. And when you come up to Montrezl Harrell and your entire team, after having a horrific series, saying, hey, let's come back next year, let's work harder, and let's get ready for another run, that's like going to a girl that you're on a first date with that was an absolutely horrific date and saying, all right, we had a terrible date, but our next date will be better while you're still on the date. Or better yet, it's like roasting your favorite football team for blowing a 29-10 lead literally within the same week that you blew a 3-1 series lead. Yes, he actually did that. And in essence, that's what Paul George is doing here. And the thing that's driving me the most crazy is, once again, and this is according to Montrezl Harrell, and this proves Montrezl Harrell's point 100%, Paul George takes zero accountability for his actions. You see, if he said to his teammates, listen guys, I'm going through some stuff right now. I don't really want to open up to you guys about this, but we played my ex's husband, aka my head coach's son-in-law in the previous series, which, by the way, we made a video on. You can check it out in the description or in the end screen. And that really messed me up. We had Damian Lillard's sister insult my relationship and my personal life. That also messed me up. I've been going through some stuff during the pandemic. I was a little bit depressed during the pandemic, so I haven't been playing right, and that's on me. Guys, if you could please do me a favor and give me another opportunity to suit up and go to battle with you guys, then I would be absolutely honored, and I would make sure that this will never happen again, because I'm going to be working harder than ever on myself and on my game this summer. If he said that, okay, hell yeah. That's what you're supposed to say. I'm sorry for consistently making football references and drawing parallels to football, which, by the way, we do have a football channel called Microphone in the description down below if you're into watching me talking about football. But Dak Prescott literally opened up to the public about the demons he's been wrestling with ever since the death of his brother. And the result was 99.9% of society felt compassion and empathy towards him, and it also resulted in him having quite possibly one of the greatest football games of his career against the Atlanta Falcons this past weekend. And the only scumbag piece of crap that didn't agree with him was Skip Bayless. And, well, he doesn't count as a human being, so we're just gonna let that pass. But that's not what he said. It seemed like he was trying to avoid the responsibility of the Clippers' loss, and that's not leadership. You're supposed to be a leader, and that is not leadership at all. Look, I really hope this is the last time we discuss Paul George. This news just absolutely baffled me, and I had to bring it up because it's tying into a consistent theme of Paul George refusing to hold himself accountable for the team's miscues. And that's not what a leader does. That's not what a superstar does. And again, even if he did score just 10 points on 4 of 16 shooting from the field in a Game 7 loss to a team that's considered to be a lesser team, he still averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists during the entire postseason. He still is a superstar, in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comment section down below. And I promise, I'm hoping that this is the final video I make on Paul George. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.